You know, we always hear about the human cost of war, and that's absolutely critical. But what about the economic price tag? Today, we're going to try and put a number on one of the world's longest running conflicts.
So, what is the actual economic price of a conflict that has dragged on for over 75 years? It's a question that feels, well, almost impossible to answer. But what if I told you researchers can now model it with some pretty surprising accuracy? And to do that, we're going to zero in on the conflict between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. Since 1947, this standoff has created these staggering and often totally hidden economic consequences that just drain the potential of two nuclear-armed nations.
All right, so let's get into it. To really understand the cost, we have to look way, way beyond the battlefield.
See, a prolonged conflict isn't just about spending a ton of money on the military. It sends these ripples out that disrupt the entire economy. We're talking about the shutdown of normal business, trade deficits, and national debt that just balloon, runaway inflation, and this is the big one, a serious, serious slowdown in long-term growth. These are the hidden costs that make trying to quantify the price of war so incredibly challenging. So how on earth do you even begin to measure something that complex? Well, a group of economists got together and built this really innovative tool to do just that. They built a conflict simulator that they call the PFEDS model.
PFDEDS, yeah, it's a mouthful. It stands for Post-War Final Economic Damage Simulator. But think of it this way. It's a tool specifically designed to estimate all those different tangled up effects of a military conflict. It's a way to bring some clarity to all that economic chaos.
Okay, so how does this thing actually work? The model kind of boils down the complete chaos of conflict into a few key ingredients. First up, it accounts for the obvious stuff, right? The underlying geopolitical tension, that friction that's just always there, even during peacetime. And of course, the direct warfare losses. We're talking destroyed bridges, military spending, all the tangible costs that we usually think of first. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the real damage is often the stuff you can't see. The model measures what it calls economic leaking. Just imagine the economy as this giant bucket. Well, a conflict is constantly poking holes in it, right? Letting resources, foreign investment, and all that potential just drain away. And then there's the cost of what never even gets built in the first place. The model has a name for this: disgrowth. It's basically the stunting of an economy's potential as innovation and trade get choked off by that constant uncertainty. And last but not least, the model is smart enough to know that the costs don't just magically stop when the fighting does. It factors in the huge long-term price tag of post-war reconstruction. Okay, so that's the theory behind the machine. The researchers then took this powerful simulator and pointed it at the real world, the decades-long dispute over Kashmir. And the model didn't just take a single snapshot in time. No, it crunched data across the entire history of the conflict, from the very first war in 1947 through the major clashes in 65, 71, and 99, all to build this incredibly comprehensive picture, and even to project what might happen next. So, this is what it's all been leading up to. After feeding decades of data into the simulator, what do the numbers actually reveal? Okay, take a look at this table. This is where the model spits out its results. Now, don't get bogged down by all the numbers. Let's just focus on the story they're telling. See the columns for losses and disgrowth. Look at how those negative impacts just spike for both countries, right around the times of active war. But, and this is key, notice how the negative numbers are consistently higher for Pakistan, right across the board. That's a really important clue. And that right there is the central takeaway from all this data. Yes, the conflict absolutely hurts both nations, and it hurts them deeply. But the economic weight isn't shared equally. The model shows, again and again, that the opportunity cost, all the prosperity that was lost, the progress that could have happened in peacetime, is significantly higher for Pakistan's economy. And look, this isn't just a history lesson. The model's projections for the future are pretty startling. Based on the trends it's seeing now, it actually calculates a 65% probability of continued military conflict in 2025. That really underscores why getting a handle on these economic costs is more urgent than ever. So let's zoom out and consider what this all really means. What is the true long-term impact of paying this immense economic price year after year? This crazy web you're seeing, that's the model's simulation for post-war reconstruction.
Now, the point isn't to follow every single line. It's to just get a sense of the sheer interconnected difficulty of recovery. It shows us that rebuilding isn't just about paving a road. It's about trying to mend an entire economic and social fabric. And that's a process that can take generations.
You know, the researchers who built this incredibly detailed model, I think they put it best themselves. They conclude the aftermath of warfare engagement is beyond comprehension, rendering the magnitude of human, economic, cultural, and ecological catastrophes immeasurable. I mean, think about that. Even with a powerful simulator, the true cost is almost too vast to fully grasp. And that brings us to our final thought. This model gives us a framework for understanding the incredible multi-generational cost of conflict. But it also forces us to ask the opposite question. If this is the price of war, what then is the true value of peace?